Hello East Africa, welcome to your world this Thursday, the 17th day of December, the lost year of 2020. And today, money talks, or rather, we're talking money. Good morning, my name is Joseph Warungu, and coming up, we focus on planning your finances with the new year in mind. What are your goals for 2021 and how will you meet them? Somalis react to their government's decision to sever ties with neighboring Kenya. Filipinos across the Catholic majority country attend the first 9-day dawn masses, a widely followed tradition leading to Christmas.
Revenue is falling below the projection.
The cost of living is set to go up starting January the 1st as the government moves to reverse the tax breaks. And this morning we have a question for you. With January comes school fees, new taxes and other bills. It's also the end of the COVID-19 tax relief. Tax rates will rise pre-corona levels. So what's your financial plan? Share with us on our hashtag #NewNormal. Now, but first, before we get into the money numbers, let's count the cost of human lives sadly lost due to the coronavirus pandemic. The global picture is at this moment 74,537,155 people so far confirmed positive for COVID-19. Out of these, 52,372,534 have so far recovered, while sadly around the world we've lost a total of 1,655,226 people. To the African continent, South Africa first, 883,687 people so far confirmed positive for COVID-19, and out of these 774,585 have recovered, while in South Africa they've lost 23,827 people. To the East African region, Kenya first, and this is our situation here at home. 92,853 people so far confirmed who have so far confirmed positive, and out of these 74,403 have recovered. And unfortunately here in Kenya, sadly, we've lost 1,614 people since we started reporting the pandemic numbers way back in March. To Uganda now, across the border, 28,733 people who have so far confirmed positive for COVID-19, and out of these 10,070 people have recovered in Uganda, and there they've lost sadly 225 people. To Somalia, our other neighbor, and it's 4,579 people so far confirmed positive. 3,529 have recovered from COVID-19, and 121 people have so far passed on as a result of the disease in Somalia. Finally, to Rwanda, 6,954 people so far confirmed positive, and of these 6,057 have recovered, and in Rwanda, as at this moment, 57 people have passed on as a result of COVID-19. So that's how it looks like. regarding the ravages of the coronavirus around the world. Now, a number of stories here we have for you this morning just before we get into our discussion. Now, when Tunisia's embattled dictator Zine El Abidine Ben Ali delivered a last-ditch speech promising new freedoms to a country in revolt, Nadia Khiari sketched her cat delivering the same address to a group of mice. The next day, on January 14, 2011, Ben Ali fled into exile, forced out by weeks of unprecedented mass protests against his rule. 10 years later, the cat remains in rude health, and his cartoon alter ego Willis from Tunis has become an icon of the revolution. Nadia Khiari, Tunisian painter, lecturer in fine arts and creator of the cat Willis from Tunis, says, "For me as an artist, it was a true revolution because from one day to the next, I was able to express myself freely, which was not the case before, and so it opened up enormous perspectives for me. I could finally draw satirical drawings that I've always loved since I was a teenager."
Tout le monde les appelle depuis ce matin, c'est cool, c'est cool. Mais non, c'est pas moi, je suis pas non.
Somalis react to their government's decision to sever ties with neighboring Kenya, accusing Nairobi of recurring interference in its political affairs, with some residents supporting the decision while others called it hasty and not good. Kenya is a major contributor of troops to AMISOM, an African Union military operation fighting Al-Shabaab. The Islamic militants have been waging a violent insurgency across Somalia as they seek to unseat the internationally backed government in Mogadishu. Government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna said Tuesday that Kenya had been very kind and accommodating to some 200,000 Somalis living in the refugee camps in the country. We have a lot of commonality between these two countries, and anything that is capable of undermining that is of course something that efforts must be put in place to ensure it is resolved, he said. It's not the first time Kenya and Somalia's uneasy relationship has frayed in the open. Kenya and Somalia agreed to normalize relations and start reissuing travel visas to each other's citizens in November of 2019 after a long-running dispute over marine borders. The French-made typecasting machine is over a century old, the Egyptian hieroglyphs 5,000 years. Now, in a Cairo workshop, the mechanical marvel has come to life once again. Out of action for about 3 decades, a massive Foucher hot metal typecaster built in 1902 has been restored to its former glory. The French Institute of Oriental Archaeology in Cairo recently showed off the machine, which allows the printing of ancient Egyptian inscriptions. Over a century ago, designers created a font of thousands of hieroglyphs and cast them in lead so that they could be arranged line by line, covered in ink and printed onto paper. We managed to restart it in September after several repairs and purchasing new parts, said Matthew Goose, publishing director of the typecaster. We were very moved, he told AFP, when he saw an ancient Egyptian symbol, the Ankh of Key of Life, printed onto paper from one of the letters shaped from molten lead. We're at a pivotal moment when we will be able to transmit knowledge and manual labor skills to a younger generation. Parents pray for the return of their children after hundreds of students were seized by gunmen in Katsina State. Jihadist extremist group Boko Haram has claimed responsibility of the abduction in what will be its first attack in the region since it launched a jihadist uprising more than a decade ago. A faction led by the son of Muhammad Yusuf Abu Musab al-Barnawi broke away in 2016, angered at Shekau's indiscriminate targeting of civilians. The faction has the backing of the Islamic State group. It is particularly active on the Chad-Niger borders and has since July 2018 carried out numerous attacks on military bases. The group is also behind the recent abduction and killing of Christians and aid workers. Shekau's faction continues to stage suicide bombings targeting civilians, but has been under pressure from the military that has bombed its camps and hideouts. Now, the cost of living, sadly, is set to go up starting January the 1st as the government moves to reverse the tax breaks announced earlier in the year to cushion people from the harsh impact of COVID-19. The National Treasury says the tax breaks will have denied the government at least 65 billion shillings in revenues by the end of this month, something which has and will continue to affect implementation of the government's priority programs. Charity Mwangi explains.
This Christmas and holiday festivities must be enjoyed with some degree of restraint. 2020, the year whose curtains are slowly coming down, has seen loss in income not just for individuals and families, but corporates and entire economies.
Even before you look at the other performance of the economy, business enterprises, already you have taken away 172 billion of the projected revenue. So that's why we are saying the revenue is falling below the projections. And therefore, how do we fill in the space? We also want to reduce on certain expenditures that will cause less harm to our economy.
Part of the loss on government has been necessitated by an unforeseen pandemic that made life difficult for Kenyans. Some tax relief was announced to reduce the pressure on the public. While Kenyans would wish for the relief to continue a little longer until the economy bounces back, Treasury says that this cannot be, and January 1st, 2021 will be the projected date for the return of normal taxation.
We put a rider that this is going to be temporary. So we intend now to go back.
While the announcement was clear, the enactment is a little fuzzy. Members of Parliament began their recess Thursday and will remain on break until February 2021. The same way the tax relief was effected would essentially be the way it should be withdrawn, through an act of Parliament. It is therefore unclear how this will be done by January 1st.
There's a lot of pressure from the multilateral agencies to reverse these COVID measures. As we've argued in the past, stimulus packages are not there forever. They're periodic. And therefore, are we going to see a reversal of these measures? Very likely. And in my view, this will only happen once a bill is tabled in Parliament.
That notwithstanding, it will be wise to tighten your belts. Pinch those pennies and brace yourself. Effective 1st of January 2021, the corporate tax and the individual tax rates revert from the current 25% to 30%, while the value-added tax reverts to 16% from the current 14%. However, the 100% tax relief for those earning less than 24,000 shillings per month remains. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
So, welcome to our discussion this morning, which focuses exactly on what that story was all about. Taxes are back, big time, and we have a couple of new taxes. We have digital tax beginning 1st of January, and also minimum tax for pretty much all businesses, whether or not you're making profit. So what does it mean for you and for your budget at home? That's what we want to talk about, your personal finances and how you manage your money come 2021. I've got a panel of 3 people who know something about the issues involved, and I'll be leaning a lot on their help. With me here in the studio is Susan Wanjiko. She's the CEO, Legacy Hub. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Asante.
Okay, and we also have via Zoom Waithaka Gatumia, who's the CEO, Centonomy. Good morning, Bwana Waithaka.
Good morning.
Nice to have you on the show. Karibu sana. And also joining us via Zoom is Julius Gitari. Now, he's a counseling psychologist, also director of training at the Kenya Association of Professional Counselors. So if you have any questions about your money, I'm not sure we can help you find it if you've lost it, but we can maybe give you tips on where to find some and how to manage the little that you have with the panel that I've got with me here this morning. Just before we get into matters of budget and discipline and revenue streams and all that kind of thing, just want to look back at 2020 with my panel. COVID has been a particularly difficult year for a lot of people. And maybe I'll start with you, Susan. You spend a lot of your time helping people, coaching them through their finances and their financial, management. What have you witnessed from people in this past year, which we're about to say goodbye to?
Yeah. So one of the things I've witnessed that is rather pertinent to everyone was the panics, right? Because I think one of the things 2020 has taught us is we always need a safety net. Most of us didn't have a safety net. That's one of the things I've observed, right? So a lot of us were running around scared, wondering, now that I've gotten a pay cut, now that I've lost my job, what's the next move forward? A lot of people liquidating the little savings and investments they had, and a lot more getting into debt. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Bwana Idhaka, your dealings even with other organizations and so on, what's been your experience of the impact COVID-19 has had on people, businesses and money and so on?
Well, at Centonomy, we've been training in the area of personal financial management, entrepreneurship, career development for now over 11 years. And one of the core principles of the wealth creation process is putting aside what we call an emergency fund. That means that you're putting aside some cash that you can use when something unforeseen comes. And I think COVID-19 was completely unforeseen. And so if we had been aware of this earlier on and done that, those who had that emergency fund, whether it's a personal emergency fund or a business emergency fund, have managed to deal with this crisis probably a lot better financially. And so it's one of those core principles. There will be shocks in the market. There will be shocks continuously. What we must do is to prepare ourselves as best as we can for those shocks.
Okay, thank you. And for you, Julius Gitari, you are a counseling psychologist, and we've had a lot of mental health challenges across the year, and money has been a big contributing factor. What's been your experience of this?
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Allow me to say that in the area of mental health, people develop panic because of this unprecedented occurrence, and majorly the mental health came as a result of the significant losses that people have gone through, both in terms of job losses and also the disorganization that came, especially with the sanctions that the government put in place. So it has been a difficult time for the people, and many times some still are wondering how to bring their life back together. And especially in regard to now the challenge to do with the education sector, also it became quite overwhelming to many people. And so you discover that right now people are even wondering about the essence of education to the children, the essence of putting life together. And again, also many things came as a result of the COVID-19 issue to do with the challenges in regard to being together now as a family, something that many people are not used to. It is a major challenge. And so a lot of balance is required, a lot of help is required, and understanding.
Okay, thank you. So back to you, Bwana Waithaka. So how, and to the rest of the panel, but I'll start with you, how are we going to close the year of 2020? We're looking forward in 2 weeks' time to closing our books. Are we all pretty much in the red as the year comes to an end?
Not necessarily. Now, look, the analogy that worked for me to understand how 2020 and COVID-19 has worked is that we are in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. I think that gives you a different perspective. If you are in a large container ship, the effect of a storm is very different from being on one of these rickety canoes or something like that. And so if we can imagine people in those different situations, the effect of a storm is completely different. So are we all in the red? Not necessarily. In fact, this year has been a bumper year for many different industries. What I loved is that at the beginning of the year, when movement of goods and services around the world stopped, a lot of Kenyan companies filled those gaps. We started producing things that we had never produced before. I love that Kenyans, we became a net exporter of things like PPE, which was not something that we had before. So there are companies that have done better. There are people who have done better. if you've remained in your job and you are a beneficiary of the tax break and you didn't get a pay cut, you actually were earning more in this year. So there are people who have done better financially, but definitely there's those who have done much worse. And for those who have done better, it is our responsibility as a community, especially as Africans, to step up and to support our fellow Kenyans, our fellow Africans, because this is our culture. It is a culture of support. So as we close the year out, because I guess that's a question you're asking, those who have done better, please send some money up country. Don't go visit, but send the money as you would have normally.
Thank you, Bono Idaka. If we can find that money to send, but yeah, we will do our best. Good rallying call there. Okay, so that's the year 2020, which we all want to see the back of quite in a hurry. But now let's focus on the year ahead. And just before that, maybe also your thoughts for you, Susan, as we close the year, even from your own clients. What situation are they at?
I agree with Waithaka. We are not all in the red, mostly because I think 2020 is what I'd call a very humbling year, right? It has humbled a lot of us. And I think how best to close out this year is to do a proper review, right, of how the year has been, whether it's on a corporate level or on a personal level, right? What are some of the lessons that you have learned? Where, at what point did you realize that the rain started beating you? You know, at what point did you realize, man, I do not have savings, I do not have investments, I'm deep in debt, I do not know how to be frugal, I do not know how to stick to a budget, right? Because I keep saying time and time again that it is of no use to go through an experience and not take something out of it, right? And so one of the things I think most people should normalize doing is doing a proper financial review, right? So we are talking about what exactly do I need to downsize going into 2021? What are some of the things that I know I need to set up? Waithaka just mentioned something very important, emergency funds. One thing I can tell you for sure is that most Kenyans are one emergency away from a financial crisis.
Sure.
And COVID taught us that, right?
It's exposed us completely.
It's exposed us. And I think, right, we are working out of COVID, right? But emergencies don't just come because of a pandemic. Even out of this pandemic, emergencies will still keep coming up, right? And so one of the top priority items that needs to be on our financial plans is that emergency fund, right? And so it's about reviewing your finances, what you can tweak, what you can move around, right? And then learning from the mistakes that you've already made in 2020, right? Because you cannot know what to correct if you don't know where you went wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. And we want to get into the detail of that in just a second. But first, let me bring you, Julius, into the conversation again. And from a psychologist's point of view, what kind of memories should we keep of 2020? Which ones do we dump and say this one actually didn't happen? What should be our approach as we face a new year?
Thank you, sir. Maybe to begin with, allow me to say that, first of all, this thing came as a spur of a moment. Nobody was prepared for the COVID-19. In fact, to many, it was like we were in a daydream. It was not. We are not sure that surely in this minute of the storm. And so, memories that we should really discard is the pessimism attitude that we've been having, and generalization that we are done, we are down. We need now to discard those negative self-talk that we've been having, and also looking down upon ourselves. And embrace the idea. I like the way Waithaka has said that at least even in the midst of the storm, many people have really harvested, and it is true that we should not focus on the negative side of the situation. Let's learn. Let us capture the lesson we've learned. Then we become optimistic in the situation. And then for the year 2021, I guess what we need to understand is that at least now we've learned a lot of lessons. We've realized that even employment is not oxygen, it's not a basic need per se, as many of us thought. The narratives we had that I must be employed. This is time now to think about deployment, whereby we need to look inside ourselves and see the resources we have. And I want to let you know that human beings have got a lot of potential, and from the storm, starting from March 13th, at least Kenyans have discovered. And I'm very sure there's nobody who has died because of lack of employment. There's nobody who has died because of lack of food in the midst of the situation. So we are wonderful beings that are able to adjust. And therefore, what is required for the year 2021 is, first of all, help us like us in the Catholic fraternity and professionals like Waidaka and Madam Susan there need to really create a lot of sensitization. People, what they require is awareness. They need to be aware of the potentials they have. They need to go through the SWOT analysis and then now personal development, and they wake up, wake up, put on their safety belt very well, make total adjustment, and stop focusing on the position that they have been having, the titles. This is the time now to change our attitude, to change our positions, and know that life must continue whether COVID is there or not.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Julius. So let's get into financial management now. To begin with, maybe from you, Bwana, we're going to start with the process of budgeting, but I'd like your thoughts on our finances are going to be the budget that we will be working from. KRA now wants a bit of it back. So let's start with some of the things that we should expect will hit us from January the 1st. We've just done a summary there, but it's good to remind ourselves of what is ahead of us from the new year.
Yeah, so there's some things that you cannot control. And I think we have to begin to, a good mindset to get into it is to say, what can I control and what can I not control? One of the things you can't control is how much tax you're going to be required to pay. So just accept it and begin to make the adjustments in your mindset and to say, okay, so we were at 14%, we're going back to 16%. Maybe you had been adjusted to 25, now you're going back to 30. Accept it and then begin to plan. So in the budgeting process, many of us, this is how we budget. We say, I'm going to earn 50,000 shillings, okay? Now, where do I spend it? Wrong perspective. Budgeting is not about how do I spend everything I have, but rather what are my priorities, and then how do I ensure that my finances go towards those priorities? So anytime we're working on a budget process, we always say, what do you want? I know that's a question many Kenyans have never been asked, but ask yourself that question, what do I want? And if it's saying I want to live in a nice place, I want to do all these things, then you say, what must I do in order to get those things? So if you're earning less than what is required, then your strategy is not just about spending everything you have, but actually about earning more. So the budgeting process must start with what is the priority. Let me challenge every single viewer here. Starting now, I don't even wait till January. Start now, get out a diary, get out an app that can help you to track your expenses. Write down every cent that you spend. It will shock you where your money goes. Many of us are richer than we think. And when you see where your money goes, then you can reprioritize and put it into the places that matter to you most. One example very quickly. Our house help. She's an amazing lady. She's a lovely lady. You would think, low income earner. I'm not trying to say that she's a high income earner. And you would think, there's no space in a budget for somebody at that level for overspending. And we addressed it, and we realized on her phone, she has about 5 ringtones. Every time we call her, there's a different song that plays. And what she doesn't realize is that's 2 shillings and 50 cents per song that is going out every day, which she could have been using for something else. That's what I mean by prioritizing what matters to you. Okay.
Thank you, Bwana. It cannot get as basic as that. Thank you for that example. Susan, your thoughts, what are your input into our budget now?
Okay. I think a lot of Kenyans are also budget haters. And honestly, if you and your family want financial security, especially in 2021, it's essential that you not only prioritize having a budget, but you understand exactly what budgeting is. I see a lot of people in my line of work. I've noticed a lot of people think that just having a list of bills is budgeting, right? And as Waithaka has told us, it's about identifying priorities, right? Dave Ramsey once said that budgeting is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went, right? So we have a lot of Kenyans at the end of the month. Someone cannot account for every single coin. Na hii pesa imeenda wapi, right? And so budgeting has, I think it is about understanding what budgeting is, right? So it is prioritizing what is most important and, differentiating wants and needs. Right?
Sometimes people struggle with that. Actually, when you talk about priorities, it's easily said.
Yeah.
But actually,
I
from
think
your
the
experience, what are priorities actually?
You see, the question, I think it is very brutal. Yeah. But I think I ask people, but will you die? Will you die if you don't have this? Right? So what are priorities? Food, shelter, right? Healthcare, some of those things are priorities. But whether you live in Runda or Zimmerman, that's not a priority. Whether you live in a 1-bedroom or a 5-bedroom house, that's not a priority, right? Whether you are eating out or not, whether you change your wardrobe or not, that's not a priority. Right? So I think it is a matter of, and then again, debt, savings and investments. I think one of the worst mistakes we do is that we save fast, we spend fast, right? And then save later. So the moment your salary comes in, the first thing that comes to your mind is, I need to pay rent, I need to pay this, I need to pay this. But the first thing that we need to do is to pay ourselves first. That's the only way we are going to survive 2021. And paying yourself first is determining an amount, actually a percentage, right, of your salary, whether it is business income or employer salary, that you're going to mandatorily put aside without question, without negotiation, that this is going into my savings, this is going into my emergency fund, and then everything else, I'm going to find a way to live frugally with what I have. Because you see, even with food and shopping, you can always adjust in the house, right? You can cut costs, you can downsize. But the moment you have the mentality that my salary comes in and all I do first is pay bills, the truth of the matter is that is how we end up never having enough money to save or to invest. Because most Kenyans will tell you, Coach Susan, you're telling me to save and invest. Hii pesa inatoka wapi?
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that if you purposed to take 10% or 20%, right? And I've seen that it works better to pick a percentage rather than an amount. Instead of saying, I'll be saving 5,000, especially if you have fluctuating income. A lot of people who are in businesses don't have a fixed figure, right? So it works best to decide that every paycheck I get or every amount of money I get, I'll take out 20% and direct that into emergency savings, and then 10% and do debt with that, right? Okay. And so when you put it that way, it becomes very easier. You save yourself from that negotiation. Nilipe hii ama ni save. You understand? So I think paying yourself first is one of the best things you can do for your budget, then plan for everything else.
Okay, more of your thoughts, Bwana Ideka, on the budget. What are the signs of a weak or not well thought out budget?
If I may respond to what Susan said, I am in agreement 100%. One of the first lessons that we teach if you come into Centonomy is pay yourself first. But I disagree with Susan on the usage of percentage. When we get into percentage, the issue that we have is that people are in different situations with different priorities. So our plan at Centonomy in terms of saving and investment is always in line with a goal. So that you say, I have a goal, I want to own a home. I have a goal, I want to start a business. I have a goal, I want to send my children to a certain school. Therefore, you work backwards and your monthly saving and investing is based on a goal. Because when we worked with percentages in the past and we've seen it work, look, if you're telling someone earning 1 million shillings a month that you have to save 10%, that might be too little for them. But that at the same time, if you're telling somebody earning 5,000 shillings a month that you have to save 10%, that might be too much. So it's about matching your goals to the investment, to your goal. So you're saving towards an emergencies fund, you're saving towards a goal, that makes the difference. So when we talk about budgeting, thank you for the question, don't think about budgeting as a restriction. In fact, a better term for a budget is called a spending plan. I loved what Susan said, and Dave Ramsey is probably one of a global leader in personal finance. And when he says it's about telling your money where to go, that's exactly it. It's taking control. So your budget is a plan on how you spend And as you heard what Susan said, complete agreement with her, spend on your, save and invest first. That is how you pay yourself first.
Okay. Waithaka, thank you. I'm going to keep bringing in Julius, who is our counseling psychologist, because he's going to help us with our frame of mind. And I know the financial experts I have on the panel are going to now jump into financial discipline. But mentally, in terms of how we stick to a plan, you know, and how we just stay focused on that goal, what does it take? What do we need to bear in mind, Bwana Julius?
Thank you, sir. Allow me to say that I like the idea that these two professionals have brought on board. It's to do with the work, financial budget or working plan. It's very, very important. And so the issue about the goals, goal setting is a challenge to many people. They require to be helped to set those short-term goals. You know, we have got short-term goals and long-term goals. So, and this where now the role of the expert comes in sensitization and helping people to understand that there is a need for budgeting. And generally, the culture of Kenyans that at least we have problem with the mathematics. So the idea about the percentage, it will bring challenge to many people, and say that we compute our percentage of the income we are getting. It becomes a challenge. So, and therefore, then understanding that ourselves as individuals, also we have got the so-called personality disorders, that sometimes we have even been taught by professionals like Rebecca and Susan about the budgeting and everything, then we relapse again because of our personality disorders. And this is where now the place of mental health now comes in, to help people to first of all understand who they are, to understand their personality makeup, and to know that some of our makeup, which is making us even to enter in financial problem, require help. Like if I've got this problem of impulsive buying, until I see a mental health professional can be able to assist me, I'll keep on complaining that my money is never enough, simply because I'm not first of all aware that I have a problem. I think it is normal, because to many of us, when you talk about mental health, people tend to think that this mental health has to do with being mentally ill or being depressed. That's how we tend to think about mental health. But mental health is an area whereby almost each and every person who thinks they are normal, they require help, because there are a lot of bright spots that we are having that we require to be assisted to be able to oversee them. And understanding that there is our genetic composition, which is about 40% of our makeup, that sometimes creates a lot of difficulty to us. So from the awareness point of view, we need to know how to manipulate the 60% environmental factors that can be able to assist us now to move from our current scenario, where we are battered and butchered, to a preferred scenario, and this will come through sensitization. Okay. And I'm happy to know that at least now we have got these helpers like Sentonomy who are coming up very strongly to create a general awareness in the public, to sensitize us to know that we need a budget, sir.
Julius, thank you. As we go on, and when you raise the issue of impulsive buying and buying stuff that we don't need, I will need your help a little bit later to find out why men go into a shop to buy a toothbrush and they come out with a screwdriver. I never understand that. Or they come out with a beer in their hand and they had actually gone to buy soap. But that's for a little bit later. But we've got some feedback. We've been asking you, all our viewers, to share their thoughts, what are their financial plans, and this is the question we posed to you. With January comes school fees, new taxes and other bills. It's also the end of the COVID-19 tax relief. Tax rates will rise to pre-corona levels. So what's your financial plan? And this is what you've been saying to us. Robbie, man, no plan. But I believe there is always a solution to every situation. That sounds like a lyric there. Stephen Karanja, I sense danger, depression and suicide. Only God will intervene. That's one for you, Bwana Julius, to pick up. Blessing Muli says, ikuje vile itakuja. Bora bei ya managu, kisiagi na avocado ibaki vile vile. Okay. Simon Sakwa, you say, just as before Corona came. Tutarudi huko. I wish you'd expounded on that a little bit. Rosanna Gilbert, you say, well, absolutely nothing. I'm jobless, without saving, without cash at hand, but with plenty of worries of what the future holds. They decided to increase school fees by threefold. Acha, watumalize kabisa. Okay. John Micheni, you say, very few Kenyans are in formal employment. Actually, nothing will change in 2021, you reckon. Roger Bryan, you say, my plan is to sit down and press the imagination button. Utakaa unafikiria mwaka mzima. Boston, you say, provided they will open up bars and lift the curfew, we have no problem. So we take our plans huko kwenye bar. Really? Okay, Sami, God will provide indeed, but he also needs you to kujipanga kidogo. Kathy, wakati, you say, you want me to plan for what I don't have? So a whole issue of what are we planning for is what I'm throwing to my panel. No finances, so no plan, says Kay and Pretty. And another one here from Wamboi Grace. Well, taking one day at a time. Thank you so much, Wamboi. Thank you indeed for those comments. Let me turn to my panel. To you, Waithaka, first. A lot of Kenyans, they're really saying, but what are we planning? There is really hardly anything to plan. We don't have jobs, you know, food, everything is going to be expensive. So plan will come a little bit later.
Look, I know maybe this is Julius's area a bit more, but let me say this. From our experience of training people over 11 years, mindset is everything. If you come into the world saying that there are no opportunities, you will never see an opportunity. If you come into the world saying that I can't get a job, you will never get a job. If you come into this world saying that I can never save, I can never invest, you will never invest because you have told yourself that. Come on, Africans. We must wake up. We must believe in ourselves. We must say, you know what, there'll be a better day. I love to read stories about people who have found success coming from absolute poverty. People who have come from places that they shouldn't have, orphans. People who didn't even have an education and found a way. The thing is, this world will always find difficulties, will always find problems. Even people think that God is going to help us. I believe God is going to help us. But Jesus Christ, before he left this world, said, you will always have trouble in this world. But don't worry, I have overcome the world. And it is time for us to become overcomers. There are people who are lifting themselves up and saying, I can do this. Today I'm going to find that new customer. Today when I go to that interview, I'll have a positive attitude. I'm going to get that job. And I'm not going to stop looking. The people who don't find success are the ones who sit back and say, you know what, serikali nisaidie, there is no hope, no one can help me. Once you get into that hopeless space, it's difficult to get out of this. Sorry, I'm taking Julius's question. But I feel that we must lift ourselves up and believe that there's a better tomorrow. If we don't believe it, there's no hope for real.
Okay, thank you, Bonaidaka. And to you, Susan, so your response to some of those comments that you saw there.
I agree with Waithaka. Mindset is everything, right? So you can either have an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset, right? And as long as you have a scarcity mindset, to be honest, as Waithaka has said, there's no hope. There's no hope for you. And so I think it is a matter, you win all battles in your mind first, right? And so the moment that you decide that, you know, if the government is not coming to do this for me, if the government is doing that for me, or, you know, if no one comes and shows up for me, then nothing will happen for me, right? But the truth of the matter is that, again, it's a brutal truth. No one owes you anything. No one, so we have to show up for ourselves. We have to gather strength and courage within us to show up for ourselves, right? And so I think it's a matter of examining, and I think also with this whole issue of there are no jobs, I've lost, and the truth of the matter is that, again, that's the reality, but what are you going to do about it? Yes? And so I think it's a matter of just calling yourself to a conference, ama kujita kamkutano, and ask yourself, what are the skills I have? What is my training? What are my natural gifts and talents, right? And then trying to see what can I do or what can I monetize among these things that I know I'm good at. And then also take some humble pie. A lot of us are at home because we are not humble enough to sell nyanya outside in the market. A lot of us are still at home because we are thinking, but I have a degree, I cannot work this job, right? 2021 does not need that level of pride. We need to actually take the humble pie because times are tough, right? I'm not saying that now you take yourself all the way under, but we need a lot of readjustment mentally. If you have an abundance mindset, I tell you for sure, you will see opportunity where people do not see anything at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Julius, it's a good point to bring you in. My financial experts are talking about a mindset, and it's really, really important to stay focused with that mindset that you need to shift things and overcome 2021. Have you got some tips for us?
Yes, sir. Now, allow me to say that even though Corona came and people perceived the world activity has come to a standstill, the world is never stopped. It is still moving from west to east, from east to west. So it is me who stopped. And therefore, this is a time now to think in a diverse way. Diversity is required in this concept simply because when you look, the challenge is that many times we tend to look outwardly, and looking at one, we only try to look at the few skills we have, the mindset that this is the only job I can do on this earth. But when you do something called introspection, it is very, 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 very important. You look inwardly to yourself and ask yourself, what is this that I have? And I can assure you that on daily basis, deep inside us, much of what we've done outside is only 10% of our potential. There is a lot of 90% potential which is idle in us, staying there, and therefore, when a challenge like this comes, it is a time now to look inwardly and see what is it that you have and utilize it. And therefore, the need now to know that life is in phases, but people are utilizing it. Therefore, we need now to check our size and know how to size ourselves instead of now staying on the utopia one of imagining that I've been the CEO, therefore I can never be a subordinate. That kind of mindset is what is now eating us, what is challenging us. So it is a time now to cut our coat according to our clothes. And there is a time now to know that where we are right now, we have been battered and butchered. We need now to be better by looking inwardly and seeing the skills we have, the network we have been having. I've been trying to look at an organization like the Uber, the Uber services. These people, my research that I've done is that they have got no single vehicle. They are only using a vehicle and they are doing wonders in the world. Google itself does not have even a physical office. People are working at home, but on daily basis they are making billions and billions of money. So, and therefore, for me to think that because I'm not in the office, I cannot work, there is a lot. Allow me maybe to give an example that in the month of March, also where I was working, sort of the job came to an end. And I thought that because I've been used to staying in the office, in the classrooms, there's nothing I can do. Only to get a leadership. When I entered at home, people rejected me because I'm coming from Nairobi. And I look like a corona man who is bringing corona to the people. But I searched myself. I know that still I am a lot of inner potential. I went to do farming, and I can assure you, within a very short time, I started even labeling myself as an agriculturer, that I can be able to do counseling, at the same time I can do farming. I labeled myself, I give myself a new label, and I looked up very fast. In fact, this time I'm even realizing that even me, I've been an idler in Nairobi, I've been an idler at workplace for more than 25 years. I've been working weekend at the trees without a job. I've done. I've discovered work is not oxygen. And we have got a lot of inner potential. Let us look in one way, pick up the resources, let us connect our SWOT analysis, and wake up and stop thinking about what people will say about us.
Okay, Julius, thank you. Now, to wrap up the segment on budgeting, maybe a final word from you, Bwana Waithaka. Given the kind of, some of the comments that came there, we are going to go through a tough year financially with obviously a lot more taxes to deal with. Does this therefore call for an austerity type of budget?
Wisdom is important, yes. I think we cannot go blindly into the year. I don't know what 21 will come with. So I don't know that I'll say it to necessarily be a tough year, but we must go with caution. I think as individuals, because of uncertainty, we will be cautious. And so this is a good time to wait and see, have a wait and see attitude in terms of our spending mindset. So if you're going into it simply saying it's going to be a tough year, that may not be the right mindset, but rather to say, I don't know what is coming, so I'm going to be careful with my spending in order to stretch it as far as possible. Just to quickly add on what Julius was saying, we know the jobs are available. I have never gone to the newspaper or to these job websites and found them empty. That means jobs are available. The problem is people are not finding the right kind of person is not in that job. So make yourself the right person. I know that there's still massive space in the business world because there are problems. And what businesses do is they solve problems. So if you can solve people's problems, you'll find some success in this year. So don't go with just an attitude of, I'm not going to spend, no. But caution is what I would suggest around the budgeting space.
Okay. Susan, let's underline this budget issue. Your any other thoughts on the budget process?
I agree with Waithaka. Caution in spending, but then also I think we also need to double in on saving, right? Because as Waithaka has said, we still do not know what's going to happen in 2021, right? We are aware of some changes. We know taxes are going back. We know we still have effects from job losses and everything. So as we downsize, I think it's very important that we are not just haphazardly spending, right? And even during this Christmas period, we are in between festivities and we are about to get into 2021, and a lot of people are going to be broke in January, right? Because of our level of spending, right? So I think it's important that we, and also another thing is also looking at where we are going to be putting our money, because you see, not everyone is stuck at joblessness. Not everyone is stuck at lack of money. Some people are still liquid, as Waithaka said. There's some people whose jobs were okay this year, right? So think carefully about also spreading out your investments and diversifying your investments, so that when one asset is hit, I mean, you didn't put all your eggs in that one basket, right? So diversifying, of course, your emergency fund needs to be in highly liquid investments. You want to also diversify so that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, so that when one thing is hit, you can be able to survive. And then also pay key attention to your risk tolerance. I think how people have reacted to, because businesses have been hit, but other than that, people's investments were also took a hit, right? And so look at how you reacted in 2020, right? Were you panicking, trying to sell off shares, trying to do, close a business, start another one? That will really guide you to understand your risk tolerance, and that should advise you that, okay, maybe I was biting too much last year. So align your savings, your investments, the kind of risks you're taking with your money in alignment with your risk tolerance. Don't just do things because people are saying, this thing here has money. You're just going with, ask yourself, how would this investment align with my financial goal? At what point exactly would I, think about how liquid is this if I get in trouble, and some of these things, of course, start thinking about investing in the long term as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bonedaka, a very quick thought just before we take a break. Both of you mentioned about the importance of having an emergency fund. Where do you find this money for emergency when the emergency is the eating and, and the rent?
Yeah, let me tell you this. It's a tough thing, but it is possible, and we have seen it over a couple of years. How do you get an emergency fund? Remember, the budgeting process starts with priorities. So the first thing everyone must do is track your expenses. Like I did, like the example I gave you of our house help, when we showed her that daily, she's paying for songs on the phone that she doesn't even listen. It's her friends who listen when we call. She was paying close to 10 shillings per day, 10 shillings per day for phone ringtones. So when we adjusted it and said, why don't you, instead of paying for that, remove that 10 bob from your phone and put it even in a piggy bank? That means by the end of the month, that is 300 shillings. 300 shillings per month. That is significant. So if each one of us track our expenses, you will find gaps in your spending. Not that you stop spending on things that matter to you, but that you readjust and reprioritize so that that money goes into a savings account. Now, you won't be able to do it in 1 month. This is a process that takes years. But with consistency, you'll be able to get there. But it starts with tracking your expenses. If you don't know where your money is going, you're in the wrong place.
Okay. I like that motto, 10 bob at a time. I'm good at that. So we're going to take a short break now, but there's lots of feedback coming from you regarding this topic on your finances. Let's have a look at some of your comments from you. This is Said. You say, living by the day to avoid unnecessary anxiety. Thank you, Said. And this is from Ken Joguna. Fake it till I make it. That's your financial plan. Dr. Nokombele Safari. Amimo, you say, what do you mean exactly? Common Mwananchi does not have control in all the stated conditions. So, what possibly plan for? Okay. This is Edwards. To eat and drink enough on 25th, no change. 25th of December, aya. And na sasa 25th of January utakuwa wapi? Mutisi ya Kalundu. Borrowing, begging. Wow, okay, things are rough here. Biden, you say, well, please, mambo ya school fees, mstuambie sahi. Can I ask you why your fees iko mauli? Aya, haujakula bado. It's time to marry and have fun. By the way, sikuba wiki imeanza kuwa kali. Ina taste maigoya. Wow, okay, please. Aya, let me take a break.
All of us are survivors of malaria, but sadly, some do not make it to tell their story.
Most malaria cases and deaths occur in sub-Saharan Africa, and in Kenya, the disease is a leading killer of children younger than 5 years.
For you to actually rule out malaria, you need to actually do up to 3 tests. 3 slides done 8 hours apart.
Nilikata shortcut karibu niue mtoto. Daktari karibu aniweke kofi.
We try to understand why this preventable condition is still a thorn in our flesh.
What a relief! Thank you, Gold Crown. If regular milk makes you feel uncomfortable, try Gold Crown lactose-free milk. Milk that loves you.
I'm waking you up to the hottest morning show. Tina Kagia, The Morning Fix, Nation FM.
Hey, how are you doing? I am Tina Kagia, aka The Voice. And every single morning, starting from 6 up until 10, catch me on The Morning Fix on 96.3 Nation FM, where good music lives. Let's have awesome conversations. Talk about life, love, money, politics, school, education. No topic is out of bounds.
Mornings with Tina Kagia, 96.3.
Nothing but the best of conversations. Talk about your stories, because honestly, it's important to unwind. See you every day.
All the hits with Tina Kagia. They're my morning show. The Morning Fix on Nation FM. Nation FM, where good music lives.
The blind man told police officers, afade mimi sijawahi ona bangi maisha yangu yote.
Hizo ma award zikafanya watu waanze kuimbia award badala waimbe the word.
Mimi mkinichagua mtaona miujiza.
Anajifanya siku hizi.
Kibia mara moja.
Naogopa Mwenyezi Mungu na uji moto peke yake.
Hiyo si bangi.
We are Nation, Africa's independent media brand. We are committed to empowering all Africans, from the young to the old, from the curious to the educated, and from the heart of the cities to the rural areas. We are Nation. Join us, because if you want to get far, you do it together. Nation. Empower Africa.
Sweetheart, when lori imekata break. Bra, when you gotta go with Neptune.
Welcome back to Your World this Thursday morning, and today we're talking money. My panel is Susan Wanjiko. She's a financial coach and CEO, Legacy Hub. We also have with us via Zoom Waithaka Gatumia, who's the CEO, Centonomy. And also joining us via Zoom is Julius Gitari, who is a counseling psychologist, also Director of Training at the Kenya Association of Professional Counselors. Now, just before we get back into the discussion on money and money matters, now, while Kenya is bracing itself for very tough years ahead financially, the campaign is still on for a referendum to amend the 2010 Constitution and create a new structure of government that will be quite costly. Olive Barrows had this report back in November on critics of the Building Bridges initiative, which they felt should fall lower on the priority scale.
Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to say goodbye to the dear departed. Over the past few weeks, cries like these pierced the air as lovers, children, mothers, fathers, siblings and friends laid their loved ones to rest. What were previously manageable cases of high blood sugar or pressure proving fatal on coming into contact with the coronavirus. And what is already a precarious situation threatens to turn into a catastrophe if doctors strike over the government failure to provide them with personal protective equipment with which to do battle with the virus, or insurance cover when they get wounded on the battlefront.
The idea that NHIF cannot pay for vulnerable Kenyans in the event that they get sick, but we have money to run around collecting signatures. We have money to run a referendum. We have money to set up a secretariat. It shows the height, the level of impunity, the level of complete and total disregard of the Kenyans as our people.
The consequences of COVID-19 that we are experiencing are as a result of failure of governance.
But as Kenyans die from COVID for want of oxygen, unable to access hospital beds, as Kenyans are forced to pay out of pocket for COVID treatment despite having lost their sources of income to the virus, the political discourse is focused on the political aspirations of a few.
If there is 2 billion to take to the referendum, kindly take the 2 billion to buy PPEs for the soldiers, the frontline soldiers, who is our doctors and our nurses, but not to a referendum, because the referendum can wait. I mean, nobody is going to die if we don't have this referendum. People will die if we don't take this COVID seriously.
You know, people are bound to look at how they feel right now in terms of the risks, the health risks we face, the economic risks we face, and the economic experience that we are going through. We are bound to look at those and want to see immediate public attention, immediate government attention, immediate political attention to those ones.
Yet the same government that flogs its citizens in the streets then extorts them for not wearing masks is the same government that is hell-bent on exposing an already vulnerable population to the virus, come hell or high water.
As people say they want to engage in other activities on the political scene, for instance, do they want some of these things to hit home for it to register?
Forcing people right now to sign on a document somebody else has been touching, that is spreading the virus. This virus is about touching. That's why we are saying sanitize.
So inevitably, the BBI process will suffer a credibility crisis unless the promoters demonstrate a direct link between the health welfare of the people, the economic welfare of the people, and what is being proposed in this BBI package.
And even the institutions that Kenyans should be able to rely upon to champion their cause have shown that when push comes to shove, it's every man for himself.
Look at the county facilities out there, do not even have oxygen. We were requesting, and I managed to talk to the clerk of this National Assembly, that be given, we should have a hotline for helicopter just in case
The opposition that Kenyans had come to rely on to hold government to account on matters corruption now shout down those who may dare demand accountability. The BBI, we've been told, is urgent because thousands could die come 2022 should more people not be incorporated into government. Question is, what about those who already can't breathe? Olive Barrows, NTV.
So let's pick up our financial conversation, and the story there just really hitting home the thought about priorities and where our top priorities lie. Now, Bonawidaka, that's going to be the background within which we face 2021. It's going to be quite noisy politically, and we still have to focus on where we are going as individuals. Now, in terms of creating revenue, or shall we say even multiple streams, where does one begin this?
Politics is tough because the cycles are hard to get by. I mean, if anything 2020 has taught us is politics is the same around the world. If you watch the American politics, I don't know if they can come and preach to us ever again. Let's look at this. What Susan mentioned earlier on, your skills, your abilities, your strengths, and the resources that you have, especially a resource like time. I think one of the resources we don't usually take as seriously is this thing called time. How much time do you have? So to those who are employed, you use 8 of your hours daily, Monday to Friday, on behalf of your employer. You put in all the effort, but that's 8 out of 24 hours. What are you doing with the other with the other hours that are in your day? Those 16 hours that are left over afterwards, what are we doing with them? And what are you doing on the time that is not for your employer? What are you doing on a Saturday? What are you doing on a Sunday? I always make fun in our classes at St. Autonomy, where I am yet to fail to find a student in our class who has bought a plot somewhere and they have never seen it. They paid for it on paper, but they have never actually gone there. So when we talk about resources like time, drive to that plot. Drive to it, you'll be like Julius here, and you might find you might become a farmer by simply going there and seeing what the potential is of that resource that you have. Even just sitting down to think. One of the issues entrepreneurs have, we train entrepreneurs as well at St. Autonomy, and one of the activities that we mandate them to do is you as the entrepreneur, you must spend at least 30 minutes a day just thinking about your business. Because who else is thinking about it? Who is thinking, where am I getting the new customers? How do I improve the experience? How do I improve our product, our services? If there's no one thinking, just simply thinking, then you're going to find yourself in a tough position. So don't think of resources as only money. Time, energy, skills, ability, these are all resources, and how you deploy them will give you an opportunity to bring in another source of income. For Julius, the example he gave us was, I was busy counseling people. People went home, I couldn't counsel them, so I drove home, I found the plot that was there, and I started farming. That's what we're talking about. He brought in another stream of income.
Okay. Thank you, Bonawidaka. Now to you, Susan. First of all, sometimes people have that battle with employment or self-employment. Do I create a hustle? Do I stay employed? And I'm sure you've faced that with some of your clients. What's your take?
Okay. So one of the things that I'd say is never ever quit employment without an exit strategy or without knowing what is the next step, unless you've been fired, right? Because I think with employed people, mindset again here comes in the sense that maybe think of your employer, whether you hate your boss, whether you hate whatever it is that you're doing, and you do not have an exit plan. You don't know, if I leave this employer right now, what exactly am I going to do? Think of your 8 to 5 as the thing that funds your actual dream, right? I see a lot of people who are working an 8 to 5 on the side, they're doing hair, on the side they're baking in the weekends and all that. And eventually, the moment you start gaining some momentum in your side hustle, then maybe at that particular point you can consider quitting because you have a game plan, right? But I'm not an advocate of just, and I think we also have a mentality where we tend to glorify one over the other. Yeah, so we find that entrepreneurs will always be like, you know, being self-employed is the thing. You need to quit your job and go be self-employed. And then there are people who are employed and they're like, I cannot do business. I think being true and authentic to yourself, there are people who are happy employees. Then let them thrive as happy employees. And there are people who are not cut out for employment. These people are entrepreneurs, because we cannot all be the same, right? That's the first thing. I think the second thing now is in that struggle. I think also, as Waithaka has mentioned, just taking some time to think in the sense of income streams, or rather multiple income streams. I find that a lot of my clients and the people that I've worked with and I've coached, people tend to really overthink multiple streams of income. It's like you're thinking, I have to go back to school, get this degree, connect with this person.
So what does it actually mean?
Sometimes it is just, let me give you an example with myself, right? I'm trained in economics and finance, and I'm also a certified investment analyst, right? But I'm also very good with people. I'm a good orator. I talk to people, and I've served in church for a very long time, since I was in high school, right? And a lot of people kept telling me, you know, Susan, when I talked to you, every time I talk to you, regardless of what we are talking about, I feel like you always have a solution for me, like I'm connecting with you. And sometimes it's a total stranger. We've just sat like 2 minutes, right? And we've already started talking, right? And I absolutely love working with people. So when I was thinking, now that I'm no longer in employment, what exactly can I do? So you see, most people will start thinking, now because I'm only trained in finance, the only thing I can do is like work in front of do math and all that. But the truth of the matter is that I was like, I'm really, really good with money. I'm really, really good with finance. But on this other side, God has given me a natural gifting with people, right? So how can I merge my training and expertise to what I do naturally? I mean, I can talk from here to Timbuktu, morning to evening, comfortably, right? And so that's how I started my coaching business, and that's how I started my company, right? I also have a client of mine who's a doctor, but she's very good in the kitchen, right? And so we worked with her. We started her bakery company, and she's landing weddings every weekend, right? Someone else who's also an accountant. So
treating people, feeding people.
Exactly, right? And so stop overthinking it, in the sense, like, I keep telling people, yes, think big, but start small and start now with the little that you have, and just stop overthinking it. Think within what you already do naturally. Don't do things you hate. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Julius, let me go back to your own example, because it's a good case study to have on the show. So you're a trainer, a counseling psychologist, and as we've summarized, suddenly you don't have any clients because of Corona. You go back home. What did you have to do to get yourself started on the farm? Did you do a skills audit of yourself? Can I lift a djembe? What conversations were you having with yourself?
No, it was not an easy decision because, of course, of the title. Africa is a continent of titles and position. I've been a Nairobian. I've been here ever since, and therefore, being Nairobi, the perception is that I'm in a land of money. And so the perception of the people is that they knew that I have a lot of money because I'm coming from Nairobi. I've done a lot of investments, but the real sense I was penniless because actually the same month of March I had lost my brother and buried my brother. So on 6th, then that TV now come the first case of coronavirus. By the end of the month, we were told to go home. So I had a problem of perception. How people think of a Nairobian wearing maybe a tracksuit or an overall or a kinyasa and going to the farm. It was a difficult decision to make. And then I also wondering, why should somebody who has been staying in Nairobi wearing suits, why should they go to the shamba where they can use the money and give people to do the work for him? But I did my personal SWOT analysis. And I decided to swallow my pride, and I said that it is always okay to start, to begin afresh. It's good to start afresh, when all things tumbles down. And because I had one principle that even when you go down to the deepest where there's no other deep to go, you start rising by force. So I decided that now, because of the perception of the people, I need to isolate myself. I need to work within the confines, and then the instruction was I should not visit the people because of coronavirus. I purpose now my corona case, I'm going to manage it in the Shamba. So it had a lot to do because my self-esteem was, my self-concept was somehow distorted about people's perception. But when I came to my senses, that it's about me, not about the people. And what people are saying is relevant. In the midst of the challenges, the comment of the people does not make sense. So I searched myself, and I concluded that the praise is about me, not about the people. It's about my life. It's about my family. It's about the skill that I had. And therefore, then again, the knowledge I had about I read a lot of the nation newspaper is a documentary normally about entrepreneur and businesses almost every Saturday. I read a lot of tips. And so I said that I want now to begin now by experimenting. And when I went to Shamba, the first 1 week was not very easy, but with the time, the body adjusted very easily, and I was able to, within a very short time, I was able to put about 5 acres of land on farming, and then also I started integrating small animals here and there. And right now, I can't struggle. And the purpose that I cannot just put my mindset only on employment and neglect the land again. So at least right now, I'm confident. Come the month of January, I have no challenge about the school fees of my children, because now employment is supplementing me with my family effort. And I've got these people now who are taking care of whatever I've done in the family, because I'm able to earn something now, I'm able to support them. So, and so the relationship has become now very symbiotic. Stress levels have gone down, the weight has lost now has come back, and my self-confidence is becoming better, because even I'm feeling that I'm able to contribute, I'm able to support people's lives. And my aim was, I need to move from the one of fulfilling my personal ambition to bringing it as a vision, because ambition has to do with the only me and myself and my small family. But vision now is touching about the lives of other people, and therefore I've now employed 2 people. Therefore, I'm feeding 2 more families beside my own, out of simple mindset of just with the Shamba.
Okay, Julius, thank you very much indeed for that really candid expression of what you have gone through in the pandemic. So, Bwana Waithaka, sometimes we agonize. How do I know if I can hack, becoming an entrepreneur? I'm not really cut out for business. Sometimes you've been thrown out of a job, and now you're facing these harsh realities of you've got a bit of cash, but you really are not confident in terms of your entrepreneurial skills.
Get the skills. I love that you used the right word. You said skills, and skills can be learned. If we are getting into a new space, if we are trying to learn something new, then you have to invest in those skills. I'm no longer now being very shy about telling people it is time to learn. Go back to school and learn. When you enter into a field like entrepreneurship, there are factors that are evident no matter which area of business you're getting into. You need to understand what it means, how an entrepreneur makes money from their business. And let me tell you, this is one of the areas that most entrepreneurs that I've dealt with in Kenya fail at, myself included. When I started my first business, I had no idea how I make money from my business. I thought that if the business makes 100,000, Waithaka is 100,000 richer. Oh, big mistake. Now I have understood that it is a skill set that allows you to separate the business and yourself, so that the business begins to pay you. In that way, the business is an asset. Now, that is a skill. I had to make the mistake first and then realize, you know what? There's someone who has already invented this wheel. Why am I reinventing the wheel? Let me go and learn the skill of running a business. If you can learn the skill of running a business, then you might find yourself to be an entrepreneur, even without what people call, that entrepreneurship spirit. Really what that is that you're a problem solver. And most of us are problem solvers, whether we are an employee or not.
And just
So
on
I
that,
would,
just on that
yes.
one, Awithaka, what are the basic?
Sure.
We're going to take people to class in only 5 minutes. What are the
Please.
what are the what are the basic ingredients that you picked up from school in terms of how you separate yourself from business? What are the key considerations, just in summary?
First of all, understand this. Business money is not my money. Entrepreneurship is both an art and a science. The art is your skill, your ability, the product that you're bringing to the market, how you bring it to the market, how you differentiate from your competitors. The science is the money. Now watch this. When I sell a product, I will sell it at a higher price than it cost me to produce. That is called gross profit. Now, that is not profit the way that we think about it in business. That is gross profit. I still have electricity, rent, and God willing, my salary to pay on top of that, which I have to pay. So I need to work out in my business how it is that I go from gross profit to net profit. And that process means I need to understand, how does my business break even? Now listen. Most Kenyans think that the break-even point is the point at which my business pays me back what I invested in it. No. Please disabuse yourself of that notion. The break-even point is the point at which the business is able to cover all its operating costs monthly, including me as a salary. So I want to tell all those people, if you're in business and you've been in business for 5 years and you don't have a steady income from that business, you're not yet in business. We need to help you. We need to be able to get you out of that. And I told you it's a skill set. That's where we birthed the Centonomy Entrepreneur, because we realized this is something that people can learn. What is break-even point? It's a simple mathematical equation. You'll do it and you'll sit and you'll say, oh, I now need to sell 200,000 whatever. What are you farming, my brother, Julius? 200,000 bags of maize for my business to break even. Because when I get that, then I'll understand that I'm in business. Most of us are not in business. We are self-employed. And there's a difference. If I'm an employee that's a completely different thing from being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So get the science of business right.
Thank you, Rebecca. So very well put. Susan, let me come to you again. Let me come back to your case study. The doctor who also has a passion for cooking. Just the tiny steps that you make from beginning, that process of preparing the products to how you grow to, the stages of growing that kind of a business.
Okay, I think one of the things I'm always keen on is passion, right? And you see, the reason why it was easy for her to start a bakery business is because she's already naturally talented in the kitchen, right? It's something that she does naturally. And I love what Waithaka has said, understanding the science of business, right? And merging that with what I'd already said, like think big, start small, and start now. She cannot become Valentine's Cake House today, right? But she can start with the little things that she has. Now, one of the things I see a lot of small business people or women and men in SMEs that are starting up and coming up, the thing that they ignore is first of all, understanding the starting point. Where exactly do I start and what is needed? So when you think of yourself as a small business person, as an SME, you see that mentality small, you ignore those things that Waithaka just mentioned, right? And so as a result, even that small business that you intend to one day become a big business might not take off, right? Because of the basics that Waithaka is talking about, right? So one of the things that I teach in my coaching classes, I have a module called the Biashara Smart. We start with understanding what is working capital, just what Waithaka has mentioned. So as a baker, what do I need? So there's raw materials, there's delivery expenses. So what exactly is your strategy? I think a lot of people approach small businesses very haphazardly. I think whether this is a side hustle for you or a main gig for you, you need to think of it as a business that is, or rather, I call it give your business the Fortune 500 treatment. Put in the right systems and structures, no matter how small, at least have a signature sales process. How do we move from an inquiry on Instagram to me telling the client, these are the rates of Black Forest cake, red velvet cake, these are the delivery and everything? Because from the point of inquiry to the point of delivery, there's a lot that happens there that makes people lose clients, that makes people lose business, right? So understanding the simple basic systems and structures. How is money coming in? Where is that money being paid? Because also, again, separating personal money from business money. If your payment mode is
but that's really hard. A lot of people who've just launched their side hustle, it's your own salary that you've saved. It's you're even pinching from your partner and from the family to throw in there. So how do you then separate?
But one wrong doesn't, two wrongs doesn't make it right? So, like, for instance, payment mode, simple systems and structures. Remember, simplify everything, right? Why are you sending money to my M-Pesa? And yet, again, remember, Waithaka just told us that my business money is not my money. So you see, you've already trapped yourself when you tell your clients to pay you on M-Pesa. If you pay me on M-Pesa and in the evening I'm going to maybe buy dinner, that's the money I'm going to use. But if I set up a separate account, and nowadays it is so simple, the banking industry has made it so simple to set up a business account, or at least to have a separate account or a pay bill number or buy goods where someone will send that money, because you cannot be able to tell how much your business is making, or even consequently to tell whether you're making profits or not, or whether you're growing, if you're sending me money on M-Pesa. Best believe I'm going to use. So simple systems and structures do not allow the mode of payment to be your own personal account. That's a simple system and structure, right? Understanding, having a signature sales process and how you're communicating, that's a very simple system and structure. So I think from the onset, one of the things I encourage is treating your business as a Fortune 500, whether you're doing it from your small kitchen in your house or whether you've already set up business. So understanding the simple basics and actually starting to do them at your own level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you. We're going to take a short break now. It's getting really interesting and really practical. We'll be back with more. Just before the break, we've got more of your comments coming in on a hashtag New Normal. This one is from Asumi KE. Tuongee ya sasa, ya kesho hatujui jameni. Okay, that's your plan for the year. Otia John, tuko tu, if we die, we die. We. This is Justo Oyolo. Financial plan, na kazi hakuna. You can only plan when you have what to plan. Okay. Freezy Flame, who wouldn't want a safety net? Rich people think everybody can do what they do. Most Kenyans live hand to mouth due to the awful economy. Safety net is a luxury they cannot afford. Asante. And Stephen Wotnyambaga, you say, safety net cannot be achieved when our government is so much obsessed with dynasty. Okay. Matthew Zondoro, things like taxes are normal, but the government should lower taxes on food commodities and even provide free education to all students. The COVID-19 really messed up job sectors, and this is why the government needs to reconsider. I must do away with unnecessary spending. Okay, that's your first step towards financial freedom. Thank you. David Neto, you say, I want to reprogram my budget, do some advance payment on my bills, fees as I adjust. Thank you for that, and we'll get comments from our panel when we come back. For now, short break, Your World will be right back.
Malkia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Piga star 444 hash utunukiwe credo double.
Sumo Premium Candles. It is made of pure, fully refined paraffin wax. It doesn't have smoke. It has long burning hours. It is non-drip. it doesn't smell.
Always smile and work with Sumo Candle from Rock Industries Limited. For inquiries, visit our offices at Ndume Road off Lungalunga Road behind Carton Manufacturers near Sinai Stage. You can also talk to us through 0722 575 619.
Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory you can open an account and lipa pole pole at your convenience? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory you can get customized sizes according to your roof plan to avoid wastage? Did you know Ruiru Mabati Factory offers free delivery countrywide within 72 hours?
To order, call us now on 0111 050 700. Ruiru Mabati Factory, mali safi kwa bei poa.
Christmas, jaza kwa sababu there's a whooping 1 million bob to be won. All you have to do ni kupiga shopping worth 1,500 and above na uko ndani ya draw. Krisi ipambe na Quickmart. Quickmart, fresh and easy.
Drink and drive. Go to www.drinkiq.com.
Puka giza sasa na mshumaa wa Sumo. Mshumaa wa Sumo umetengenezwa kwa bidhaa bora zaidi na unakufaa wakati wote. Kila mara unapowaza kuhusu mwangaza katika nyumba yako, waza mshumaa wa Sumo. Unachomeka polepole bila kumwagika na hauishi haraka, hauna moshi wala harufu. Jipatie mshumaa wa Sumo katika duka lililo karibu nawe kwa bei nafuu. Kwa maelezo zaidi, tembelea afisi zetu katika barabara ya Ndume Road, mkabala na Lungalunga Road, nyuma ya Carton Manufacturer, karibu na stage ya matatu ya Sinai. Unaweza pia wasiliana nasi kupitia 0722575619 au 0736028181. Ni mshumaa wa Sumo Kando kutoka Rock Industries Limited.
Sweetheart, kwani lori imekata break? Bra, when you gotta go with Neptune.
Welcome back to Your World, and just before we get back to our Money Matters talk, this moment of irony was just hard to miss. Members of Parliament who are charged with the oversight of public resources for the benefit of Kenyans found themselves accused of none other than the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani of lavishly spending taxpayers' money. Speaking at the beginning of December, when he appeared before the National Assembly's Committee on Finance and National Planning, the CS also gave a blunt assessment of the country's weak judicial system that sees corrupt public officials consistently avoid prosecution.
Like I think foreign travel this financial year, of course also COVID favored us in this matter. I think we've already cut by about 95%. Domestic travel, we've reduced by 75%. I think the only institution that is traveling that can afford to go to Mombasa is mainly Parliament. Because we also know cases where some heads of institutions, whether at the national or county levels, they also come before Parliament. Out there's glaring evidence, but then, they come out when they're clean. They say now there are nothing adverse. So this calls for much more than the paperwork. It calls for more commitment, more honesty. because a mere application of is not really not enough.
Okay, so welcome back to the discussion. With me, my panel, Susan Wanjiko, who is a financial coach, also CEO of Legacy Hub. We have Waithaka Gatumia, CEO, Centonomy, and Julius Gitari, who is the Director of Training, Kenya Association of Professional Counselors, and as you heard, also a part-time farmer. Just on that story, Susan, our lavish lifestyles vis-a-vis what the economy is really asking us, the economic environment is really asking us to do.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we have to do as Kenyans, I see a lot of people, broke people, trying to impress other broke people so that they think that they are rich, right? It's like it's a community of broke people trying to convince each other that they're not broke, right? So one of the things, and my personal mantras in life is that people's opinions, as Dr. has just told us, they don't cut you a check and they don't pay your bills. If all of us were to just narrow down and to live within our means, a lot of us would move out of the houses we are currently living in. Wow. A lot of us would have to sell off our cars. A lot of us would not be wearing the kind of wardrobe that we are wearing. But because we care so much about people's opinions, which, remember, doesn't cut us a paycheck, right? We are living to impress the Jonases, living to, for the young people, we call it stunting for the gram, right? So, and you know, it's quite unfortunate that we have a lot of people doing it for the gram and doing it for Instagram. But when your loved one is sick, now we have a GoFundMe, we have a Chama. You know, I'm like, but how are you wearing Louis Vuitton, but you cannot raise money for, you know, a hospital bill and stuff like priorities, right? Okay. And so, of course, this is just a matter of, it is more mental than it is financial, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. So umesota na unataka kutesa. Now, so let me come to you to talk about debt. In a sense, a lot of Kenyans are a reflection of the state of the nation, which is heavily indebted to, you know, international donors. How do we deal with debt? I don't know of anyone who hasn't got some kind of a debt around themselves this year.
It's about understanding debt and being clear on how debt works. Here's a quick tool just to know whether you should take debt or not. If you're borrowing for consumption, to buy things that you're going to consume, please don't take debt, don't borrow. If you're borrowing to build assets, then do so with...
Okay. Sorry, your network is just frozen, but I think the word you were putting in there was caution. Susan, maybe you can pick it up from there in terms of how we deal with debt.
Yes, I think what Waithaka was trying to talk to us about is the difference between good debt and bad debt, right? And that is the #1 question that we should all ask ourselves before we take out debt, right? Debt is not entirely a bad thing, right? Bad debt is the bad thing. If you're taking out money, credit cards, any debt for consumption purposes, anything that will not give you an income or an interest, of course, that is bad debt. Because ideally, what's the plan exactly for paying it off? If I took out debt to pay rent, or if I took out debt to probably even pay school fees, for instance, right? So I'm not able to have a proper plan on how I'm going to pay that back. But if I'm taking out debt for, again, a carefully thought of business, because I think I see a lot of people taking out debt for new businesses, right? So you need to differentiate between good debt and bad debt and why exactly you're taking out the debt.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
Let me come back to you, Bwana Waithaka, because I know we have to release you soon to attend to another urgent matter. So yeah, over to you again on your tips on debt and managing debt.
Susan got it 100% right. That's all. If you're borrowing for consumption, please don't borrow. But if you're borrowing to grow, make sure it's considered. If you're borrowing, especially at the start of a business, that's not usually a good place to start because it takes time unless that money is patient. So debt is not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. It's how we use it. Think about debt like fire. Fire is not good or bad. You see, fire cooks our food, but if we let it out of hand, it will burn down our house. Debt is exactly the same. Debt can help you grow or it can burn down your house. So if you want some free material, we've got some amazing stuff on centonomy.com. I have to leave now. Thank you so much for having me. Please do check out centonomy.com. We've got some free material to help you budget, understand debt, and work through your finances. It has been a pleasure. God bless you all. And have a wonderful Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a great 2021.
Asante sana. Thank you very much indeed, and same to you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Asante sana. Okay, now, Julius, let me come to you. In this season, debt has been one of the biggest causes of anxiety, worry amongst people. So talking about mental health and debt.
Thank you, Bwana Waithaka. Now, allow me to say that I agree with you. Debt has been a major challenge, but something very important to help people is that at least when now when we allow us, debts are good, and there's an adage that some people normally say that sometimes it's good to borrow, because when you borrow a lot, people will pray for you so you cannot die. People are praying for you, but that is a very, very bad mentality. Debts are good, debts can also be very bad, and especially now it's gone off the side of now affecting one's health. It become a very, very bad debt. So now the most important thing is to know that when debt have choked us, instead of now reaching a point of land helplessness and the hopelessness and allowing ourselves now to go down, most important thing is to seek for professional help. And the professional help is just a stone throw away. As people need to seek, and this help can begin from within the individual's confine, within by sharing. Because some of us, because of our personalities, we are not good at communicating, so we keep to ourselves, and this time we are going down on depression, which is an emotional disorder, and it eats us up completely, and they bring heavy-related condition. The debt we look very happy. Imagine that it's going to enable us to alleviate our challenges and to make our business to blossom. It is the same debt that is likely to cause our ill health. Therefore, when somebody starts now discovering that these debts are overwhelming, most important thing, first of all, look around you for the support system. And support system can be a spouse, support system can be an immediate family member or the family itself. Support system can be just friends around you. So don't be a lone ranger. Seek for help. You can also seek some divine intervention from the clergy around you or a spiritual leader around. And also professionals are almost everywhere right now, at least in Kenya. Then also it's important when things go that way, somebody to learn that at least when you are smart, when you don't focus on the negativity, you can also be able to get help by reading some motivational books that will give you tips on how to manage your stress levels. Because most of the health conditions and the related conditions, they begin as stress. This stress will not manage. It graduates to a higher level of stress, and finally it depresses somebody. When it depresses somebody, you become a sickling, and the next thing, you go to people's death, you die. Okay. And then they also become a challenge. So it's important to seek help very fast.
Sir, thank you. Thank you so much, Julius, on that and on seeking help. Now, Susan, we talked about good debt, bad debt. Let's talk about people who are in really bad debt. Mm-hmm. You owe banks, you owe other lenders, you can't cope, you haven't got the money. Now, how do you come out? How do you climb out of this hole?
Okay, two options here. So the first option is exploring the option of refinancing or restructuring your debt, right? So one of the options that is available for a lot of Kenyans is, as long as you can prove to your banker that you got a paycheck, right, or that your salary was reduced, there's always an option to come to the table to negotiate, right? One of the worst things you can do as a debtor is to fail to communicate when there is need to communicate, right? So of course people dodge calls normally. Even if I owe you money and I know I don't have money, it's like the first reaction is always to dodge the call, right? But sometimes communication is a very mature act, right? Pick that person's call and tell them, I am in this position. Could you please give me an extension? I have found myself here. You know, that is people's skills. And of course, Some people will take it well, some people will talk down on you, but the most important bit is because some people will actually give you that extension, but if you're dodging my calls, I'm not able to know whether you're just being arrogant or you're in real trouble, right? That is when it comes to owing individuals. But when it comes to owing banks, if you can prove my pay cut, I used to have 200,000, now I only have 120. If you used to have a minimum payment of say 50,000, they're able to actually bring it all the way down to 20,000. So think about, explore the option of restructuring your debt, because that is a service that is available to Kenyans. I think we just need to be aware that we have that option of coming to the table. The second option now is cutting, of course, downsizing and cutting down. I don't think we can overemphasize the importance of going all the way down, downsizing all the way down, right?
What's that process like?
And that process, of course, as Waithaka had just mentioned earlier on, tracking your expenses and, of course, being very honest with yourself and doing mindful spending and knowing, is this important, is this not important, right? Because, I mean, we have quite a number of people. I find it very frustrating, I mean, and even emotionally draining when you have Tala, Branch, M-Pesa, M-Shwari, Cop, I mean, you literally have like 7 different loans, and all these people are calling you every day, right? And some of these people, when you ask them, so kwa nini ulichukua hii loan? You know, it's like, oh, kulikuwa na hii and all that. If we can live within our means, right, we wouldn't have to necessarily take debt. But then the question here is, I'm already in debt, so what do I do, right? There's a debt repayment strategy that I have found that works very well, which is called the debt snowball method. Now, in the debt snowball method, what happens is that, number one, you have to list down all your debts from the highest amount to the lowest amount, right? So that, because even a lot of people don't even know what their current debt status is. You'd ask someone and someone would tell you, oh, I think nihi. You know, first of all, it starts by finding out who do you owe and exactly how much do you owe them currently. Then list down the debt from the highest to the lowest. Now, in the debt snowball method, what we do is that you start paying off from the smallest amount, right? So if I have Shwari 500, if I can start attacking that one, right? Because this 200,000 that you owe the bank, you can't do anything about it. The interest will just keep incurring. Again, I think focus on what you can control now, where you are, right? So start with the smaller debt, graduating to the next debt, all the way until you'll be left with your big giant, the big 2 debts or the big 1 debt that you already have. When you do that, it even helps you psychologically, because what happens is that when you pay off this first one, it's like it gives you momentum, because you're feeling, oh, actually I've paid that one. I think nikikata nikwe natembea po malimi upanda boda boda next week, I can pay this one. You know, and then the most important thing is also examining where the money will come from. We are not just saying cut costs for nothing. You're not cutting costs for nothing. You're cutting costs so that you can redirect that money to pay your Tala loans, your branch loans and everything. So I think if you're using the debt snowball method, it is less mentally frustrating, because the more you pay off, you gain momentum, because it's also emotional. Debt is very emotional, yeah? So the more you pay, you gain momentum, and then you start seeing that your cost cutting is not in vain, right? And the more you see that happening, you gain more momentum and you pay more.
Okay, Susan, thank you. Now, Julius, as we begin to wind up our program in the interest of time, looking ahead to 2021, what kind of frame of mind do we require to be in to tackle 2021, which has increased university fees, it has taxes which have gone up, it has bills which are going to come out of nowhere, it has other annual commitments like car insurance and other renewals. What kind of frame of mind, and how do we get ourselves into that frame of mind to face 2021 courageously, boldly?
Thank you. Now, for the 2021, I want to build on top of what Susan has said there. For the year 2021, actually, what is important? The acronym FEAR means false evidence appearing real. If Kenyans have not died because of 2020 coronavirus, this aspect of fear should be eradicated from them completely. We need to identify fear and eradicate it. Number 2, the key word is focus. We need to be focused. If 2020 does not kill us, 2021 will not kill us. Therefore, we need to be focused, focused, focused. Number three, we need to be very disciplined. I think some of us, we've entered into the cycle of the challenges that we're having because of the discipline and the carelessness and the lack of even good time management and the failure to adjust. So readjust, like the Western are saying, we need to readjust and be very disciplined. We also need to be people who can be, we need to be very, very accountable in whatever we are doing. The little we are getting, accountability should be very key for the year 2021. You also need to be people who can be trusted, because if Tala has trusted me with a certain amount of money and I'm not communicating like the Western is saying, I'm not calling them, I'm not telling them to allow me for more grace period, then definitely there will be a challenge. Therefore, trustworthiness is a key for the year 2021. We also need to be people who are faithful, and the people who are diligent. Then we also need to be good stewards of whatever resources is coming our way. This is the only thing that is going to allow us to be able to come out of this cycle of debts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Julius. Now, as we come to a close, Susan, we are approaching Christmas shortly, next week. Christmas traditionally is a time of feasting and New Year. Now, as a financial consultant, what's your advice? Tukule tu kidogo, sindio? What?
Yes, please. I think...
But we've already been squeezing ourselves this whole year. This is our opportunity to eat.
Yeah, I hear you. I think towards here, adjust quickly and pivot. The people who are able to pivot quickly when things happen, right? I mean, assume there's a fire here. Who's going to survive? The person who's very quick to dash out of the room, right? The person who's very quick to identify this is where the exit is. This is, you see, if I think if we cannot, these are not normal times, so we cannot act normally. We cannot act as if there's nothing happening. We cannot act as if a global pandemic is not upon us. We cannot act as if we are not in tough financial times, because we are. So one thing I'll tell you for free is that fine, you can have your fun and enjoy yourself, but January, come February, we'll have problems, right? And so if you're able to quickly pivot, and I think also mindset here again, I think Christmas is not just about blowing money. It's not just about traveling and eating. I think this should be a time, as I said, 2020 should have been, if 2020 didn't humble you, there's a very big problem, because I mean, we came from a point of, you see, your money cannot save you from catching the virus. Food cannot save you from catching the virus. I mean, no matter how many investments you have, that couldn't save us from catching the virus. So I think this should have really repositioned what we think and our outlook towards life. If it's Christmas already, you have your mom, you have your dad, you have your family, you have your loved ones around you, that's enough. That's more than enough given the year that we have had, right? So I'd advise people to proceed with moderation and live within your means, and also just change your mindset. Okay. Wealth and happiness isn't about just material stuff. I think we should learn to appreciate what we already have given the kind of year that we have had. And then, of course, quick adjustment, quick pivoting. The people who do that even in 2021 are the only ones who will survive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Susan. The summary there is that this Christmas, it needs to be quite slim. So to my panel this morning, Susan Wanjiku, who is a financial consultant, coach, and also CEO of Legacy Hub, and also Julius Gitari, Director of Training, Kenya Association of Professional Counselors. And earlier, we also had with us Waithaka Gatumia, CEO of Centonomy. I want to thank you so much for the tips that you shared. We'll reconvene sometime next year to see whether we did follow your advice and how well we are doing as individuals and as a nation. So that's all we have time for. Now, tomorrow, join us. We're doing something special. We've been told by Susan to eat small. So we want to eat small, but eat different. So tomorrow we're going to do a bit of seafood. Are you a fan of seafood? What's your best and what's your worst seafood? You can join us and we'll let you know. We'll show you how to make shrimps, octopus, and other creatures of the sea, dishes that will make your mouth water. That's your Friday menu. See you for the seafood at 7 a.m. Friday morning. Have a good day and stay safe.
help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Finding meaningful stories takes more drive and passion.
Father's involvement in maternal and reproductive health is slowly becoming a game changer.
Getting to the truth takes more determination.
Hakuna mtu ameshikwa.
Hakuna. Nilikuwa kilio changu ni watoto wanapata shida chakula. Lakini nimeona Kenya yetu watu wamenishika mkono.
Finding real solutions takes more understanding.
Shortage of teachers, lack of textbooks.
Afadhali mtoto awe chini ya miti badala ya awe na chupa ya glue kwa mapua.
And NTV investigates leads to impact.
This building here has got its fair share of criminals.
Who are these COVID billionaires?
Corruption related to PPE, it's actually a murder.
So these are patients with cerebral palsy.
From what I saw being aired in NTV, it really broke my heart.
NTV, stories that impact you.
Welcome to Pishi Home Chef. Oh, just perfect.
We're gonna be cooking breakfast.
Making chicken shikaki, carbonara.
And I'm so happy to be on this show.
Most people think I can't do cooking. I forgot onions.
So I have to call her, literally to call her and ask her and pay your recipe.
Pishi Yoi.
Check out at Pishi254.
Fact finder from the BBC.
Death threats and distress. Nigerian man whose photo was used in a fake post claiming that he had contracted coronavirus speaks out.
Sometimes when I'm moving around, I shed tears. Even that night, I was shedding tears to my wife. I was like, don't worry, calm down. I believe that God will see you through.
Was this Tanzanian superstar almost stabbed at a concert? We tell you this is fake or fact.
Did Venezuelan president urge women to have 6 children?
False.
False. We'll find out in true or false.
Enjoy Christmas fantastic offers with Hisense. From smart Android TVs with Bluetooth and a warranty of 2 years to fridges and newly introduced chest freezers with a 5-year compressor warranty. Hurry to get one today till stocks last.
This week on Daring Abroad,
I am a servant of Kenya's foreign policy.
Ambassador Martin Kimani, Kenya's new permanent representative to the UN, his vision and his past life abroad. In Arusha, Australian chef cum musician George Stigwood's experience in 50 countries. On Kenya to the World, Kitengela Hot Glass. And on My Magical Kenya,
Shaba is Hollywood of Africa.
More thrills from northern Kenya.
What a